Hi, everybody. We're bringing you a different kind of Legacy video this week than what you usually see on Fridays. I'm Linnea, Legacy's news editor.
And I'm Stephen, Legacy's chief editor. So this is a special week. We are still going to tell you who died this past week, but because it's the holiday season and the last week of the year, we are breaking from our usual format to answer a few of your questions and also to give you a special peek behind the scenes here at the channel.
So one thing our viewers have asked us is if we can give updates on the causes of death for any of the celebrities whose obituaries didn't announce them originally at the time we published them. So the short answer to that is yes. And you don't want to miss next week's Legacy video. We'll be doing our big annual year in review, where we look back at about 100 of the most beloved public figures who died in 2024. And we will be including updated causes of death in every case where that's been made public.
So right now, we're going to go ahead and let our producer, John, roll the tribute to this week's top obituaries. Since the two of us recorded this conversation we're having right now before Christmas, the tribute slides this week are going to be presented with a moment of respectful silence rather than our usual narration. Next week, we will be back to narrating as usual.
Here are the most recent deaths in the national news, as reported at Legacy.com in the fourth week of December 2024. Legacy.com is where you can find any obituary or publish an obituary in any newspaper in America and beyond. So this week, it's been Christmas, it's Hanukkah, and we have to figure out how to take a little bit of holiday time with our families, but also still keep you all informed as to the latest obituary news. Part of what makes that tricky is that people die every day, whether it's a holiday or not.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of occasions where we've had to go to work on Christmas Day or New Year's Eve to make sure that the Legacy.com website has a timely, respectful tribute to someone whose death has just made national headlines. And I'm sure we could think of a number of those occasions that have happened just in the past few years.
I will tell you the one that I will never ever forget, and that is Betty White. This was 2021, and we had decided that year to get a little jump on the year in review video, as you may recall. We had published, did we do that one in installments?
We did. We had a three-part series that year.
So we had published the first two a little bit earlier in December because they were for all the people who had died earlier in the year. We knew all that. And we decided to publish the third installment, I believe, on New Year's Eve. I went grocery shopping on New Year's Eve, getting ready for our holiday festivities, and I was in the cheese section, and I think something told me to look at my phone. and Betty White had died on New Year's Eve of 2021. And there is no year in review video without Betty White, right?
Yeah, so we had to step back and say, okay, um, we gambled, we were wrong. Betty wanted to squeak in under the wire. So let's go back, we'll reproduce the video, and it'll come out the next day.
And that's also when we said, never again are we going to try and do this before the year is actually over. And that's why you're never going to see our final year in review video until a couple few days into January. Betty White taught us a lesson that I think we will never forget.
So this year you'll get that video on Friday, January 3rd.
Yes. You know, another one that I always remember was when George Michael died on Christmas Day of 2016. And I was at a family party when that news broke. I saw it right away and I said, I'm at a family party, but you weren't, right? So you stepped in?
I was able to sit down. So my Christmas night, 2016, that was my first year at Legacy, actually. That was my first holiday season on the news desk.
You learned fast what it's like.
Yes. So instead of, going out to the movies, it was, well, let's immerse myself in the life of this, very beloved popular singer who meant a lot to a lot of people. And let's try to find what are the right words to describe his life to people who will really care to hear about it right now.
You know, while we're talking about Christmas 2016, it was a year that kept us really busy here at Legacy. And I feel like we can't mention George Michael without noting that I believe it was 2 days later that Carrie Fisher died, maybe the day after. And then 2 days after she died, her mother, Debbie Reynolds, died. That was a hard year on the news obituary desk.
2016 in general was a rough year
Yeah.
in the office.
Yeah. There have been a lot of notable deaths at that time of year. I remember, I've been working at Legacy for almost 25 years. I've been here forever. And I remember James Brown dying on Christmas Day of 2006, Eartha Kitt, Christmas Day of 2008. Well, didn't Pope Benedict die on New Year's Eve
He did.
a couple years ago?
He did.
Yeah. Natalie Cole was another one who died on New Year's Eve. That was in 2015. New Year's Day, Patty Page. As we mentioned before, death doesn't take a break for the holidays, and that means we kind of don't get to either.
And while we're talking about the celebrities who die on the holidays, it's worth noting that this is only a specific instance of a much larger trend that we tend to regularly see here at Legacy, which is that more people actually die in the winter. Is that right?
Yeah, we get asked about this a lot. People have heard more people die in January and they wonder, is this really true? And it is actually really true. We always see every year, like clockwork, deaths increase starting in December. And that increase goes until about the end of March, but January is the peak. There are always, and this is nationwide, not just the obituaries that we publish. There is always the biggest increase in January. And then that starts to go down, and there are always the fewest deaths per month in about June through September. The reason for this that people who study this have determined is that a lot more people die in the winter of seasonal causes, things like the flu, that especially older people might die of those winter diseases. And there's just less of that in the summer. So if you've ever wondered why sometimes our videos are longer and sometimes they're kind of short, and especially sometimes in the summer they're kind of short, now you know why.
So next week, we will be back with our big annual year in review video. We hope to see you there.
And the week after that, we'll be back with our usual weekly news obituaries, deaths in the news video.
In the meanwhile, we hope you're having a safe and peaceful holiday season.
And we'll see you next week.